I found my own report card in the abandoned East Wing, dated June 20th, 2026, a full year from now. My name was there, Elena Kovac, grade 11, along with marks I haven't earned yet. Most subjects showed decent grades. History, B+. English, I-. Mathematics, C. But at the bottom, handwritten in red ink, was a note that made my hand shake. Student deceased. Final grades recorded posthumously. The East Wing has been closed since 1994. Everyone at Riverside Academy knows the story. A fire started in the science lab, killed 3 students, and the school board decided it was cheaper to seal it off than renovate. Chain-link fencing blocks the entrance, warning signs everywhere, the whole area off-limits. But the lock on the fence was broken when I found it last Tuesday at 3:30 in the afternoon. Just hanging open, like someone wanted me to go inside. I'm not the type to break rules. Ask anyone. I keep my head down, get decent grades, stay out of trouble. But my best friend Marcus had been acting strange for weeks, and I'd seen him slipping through that fence the day before. When I asked him about it, he just stared at me with this blank expression and said, "You'll understand soon." So I followed him. Or at least, I tried to. By the time I squeezed through the fence, he was already gone. But I found something else instead. The report card. Mine. From the future. With that horrible note at the bottom. I should have told someone immediately. A teacher, my parents, anyone. But who would believe me? A report card from next year. They think I'd forged it as some kind of sick joke. And the part about being deceased, they probably send me to the school counselor, make me talk about my mental health. Instead, I took it home and hid it in my desk drawer beneath my chemistry textbook. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those red words, student deceased. The next morning, Wednesday, I confronted Marcus in the cafeteria at 7:45. He was sitting alone, which was unusual. Marcus always sat with the basketball team. "What's in the East Wing?" I asked, sliding into the seat across from him. He looked up slowly. His eyes had dark circles underneath, like he hadn't slept in days. "You went in there. You went in first. I saw you. Then you know." He pushed his untouched breakfast tray away. "You found something, didn't you? Something with your name on it." My throat went dry. "How did you know?" "Because I found mine 2 weeks ago." He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. Another report card, same format, same date. Marcus Petrov, grade 11. Deceased. Final grades recorded posthumously. "This is insane," I whispered. "This has to be fake. Someone's messing with us." That's what I thought too. Until I found Victor's. He swiped to another photo. Viktor Sokolov. Same date. Same red note. And Natasha's. And Stefan's. There are dozens of them in there, Elena. All dated next June. All marked deceased. I felt cold all over. We need to tell someone. Tell them what? That we broke into a restricted area and found report cards from the future? They'll expel us. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. Besides, I already tried. I told Mr. Klaus, the vice principal. He just looked at me funny and said the East Wing has been empty for 30 years. Said I must be confused. But you have proof. The photos. He said the photos were doctored. That I needed to stop making up stories. Marcus's hands were shaking. That was 5 days ago. Now look at this. He showed me another photo, this one taken that morning. His left arm had a bruise, dark purple, spreading from his wrist to his elbow. I didn't have this yesterday, he said. But according to the report card I found, I broke my arm in gym class 3 weeks from now. The bruise showed up this morning. Elena, whatever's in that wing, it's not just predicting the future. It's making it happen. I couldn't focus in class all day. My mind kept circling back to Marcus's bruise, to my report card, to that word, deceased. How does someone die in high school? Accident? Illness? Something worse? By the time the final bell rang at 2:30, I made a decision. I was going back to the East Wing. If there were more report cards in there, I needed to see them. Needed to understand what was happening. Marcus tried to stop me in the parking lot. Don't go back in there. I have to. No, you don't. Just stay away. Forget you ever saw it. You didn't forget. You kept investigating. I pulled away from him. And now you're getting hurt. I need to know if the same thing's going to happen to me. He looked like he wanted to argue more, but then his expression changed. Went blank, just like it had when I'd first asked him about the East Wing. Okay, he said in a flat voice. But be careful. The building remembers. The building remembers what? But he was already walking away, moving stiffly, like a puppet on strings. I went to the East Wing alone. The fence gate was still unlocked. Inside, the hallway smelled like mold and burnt plastic, a sour tang that made my eyes water. Afternoon sunlight filtered through dirty windows, casting long shadows across cracked linoleum floors. The report cards were scattered across the floor of what used to be the main office. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all dated June 20th, 2026. I picked through them with trembling hands. Viktor Sokolov, deceased. Natasha Volkov, deceased. Stefan Richter, deceased. Petra Novak, deceased. Every single 11th grader at Riverside Academy, all marked the same way. All dead by next June. Then I found one that made me stop breathing. It was dated differently, June 20th, 1994, 32 years ago. The names were different, but the note was identical, student deceased. Final grades recorded posthumously. This had happened before. I took photos of everything. Every report card, every date, every name. My phone's memory was nearly full by the time I finished at 4:15. Then I noticed something else. Behind the desk where the report cards had been scattered, there was a door, partly hidden by a fallen filing cabinet, but definitely a door. It had a small window, and through the grimy glass I could see stairs leading down. The school has a basement. I'd heard rumors about it, storage for old textbooks, forgotten equipment, maybe archived records. But this door didn't look like it led to storage. The stairs went down much farther than they should, disappearing into darkness. I should have left. Everything in my body screamed at me to leave, but I could hear something from below. Not quite voices, more like whispers. And underneath that, a rhythmic sound. Tick, 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 like a clock. I moved the filing cabinet aside and tried the door. Of course it was locked. But when I checked my phone's flashlight against the window, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There were people down there. Students in uniforms from 3 decades ago, sitting at desks in neat rows. They weren't moving, just sitting there, perfectly still, facing forward like they were waiting for class to begin. And every single one of them looked exactly like the names I'd seen on those 1994 report cards. My phone rang, making me jump so badly I dropped it. The screen cracked when it hit the floor, but I could still see the caller ID. Marcus. I answered with shaking hands. Hello. Get out of there. His voice was urgent, no longer flat. Elena, get out right now. It knows you're there. What are you? The building. I told you it remembers. It remembers every student who died, and it's collecting them. If you stay too long, it'll collect you too. The whispers from below grew louder. I heard footsteps on the stairs, coming up. I ran. I didn't stop running until I was 3 blocks from school, gasping for breath in front of the public library. My cracked phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, coffee shop, corner of 5th and Main. Now, he was waiting in a back booth when I arrived at 5:15, 2 cups of coffee already on the table. One for him, one for me. He looked worse than he had that morning. The bruise on his arm had spread to his shoulder, and there were dark marks on his neck that looked almost like fingerprints. You saw them, didn't you? He asked as I sat down. The students from 94. I nodded, unable to speak. I found them last week. Took me 3 days to work up the courage to go back, but I had to know what was down there. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup like he was cold. They're not alive, Elena. But they're not exactly dead either. They're frozen in the moment before the fire killed them. That's impossible. So our report cards from the future. He pulled out a worn notebook, flipped it open to a page covered in his handwriting. I've been researching. The fire in 94 wasn't an accident. A student named Dmitry Volkov started it deliberately. He was obsessed with something he called temporal anchoring. Believed if you could capture a moment perfectly, you could trap time itself. That's insane. Yeah, well, he was insane. According to the police reports, he locked 3 classrooms full of students in the East Wing and set the fire. 27 kids died. Dmitri died too, but not before he completed whatever ritual he was trying to do. I thought about the students sitting at those desks. 27. The exact number Marcus just mentioned. The building remembers them, Marcus continued. It's anchored to that moment. And somehow it's trying to recreate it. All those report cards we found, they're not predictions. They're invitations. The building is choosing which students will die next, and when and how. Why next June? Why all the 11th graders? Because that's when it happened in '94. End of the school year, all the juniors taking finals. Dmitri wanted to preserve that specific moment. He looked at me with hollow eyes. And now it's going to happen again. Unless we figure out how to stop it. We burn the building down. Already thought of that. I tried to report a gas leak to the fire department. Anonymous tip. They inspected it, found nothing. The building won't let itself be destroyed before it's ready. The fingerprint-shaped marks on his neck seemed darker in the dim light of the coffee shop. Marcus, what happened to your neck? He touched the marks absently. I don't know. I woke up with them 3 days ago. They keep getting darker. He pulled out his phone and showed me another photo. But according to my report card, I died from asphyxiation. These marks, I think they're showing me how it happens. I felt sick. We need to go to the police. The real police, not the school. And tell them what? Show them report cards they'll say we forged. Photos they'll say we doctored. He shook his head. No one's going to believe us until it's too late. We have to figure this out ourselves. Then we start with Dmitri Volkov. Find out everything we can about him, about what he was trying to do. Maybe if we understand the ritual, we can break it. Marcus smiled weakly. That's what I was hoping you'd say. But as we left the coffee shop at 6:30, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were already too late. That the moment we'd found those report cards, we'd become part of the building's plan. And there was no escaping what was already written. We spent the next 3 days researching Dmitri Volkov. The public library had newspaper archives from 1994, microfilm reels stored in the basement. We went through them page by page during lunch breaks and after school, piecing together his story. Dmitri had been brilliant. Straight A's, science fair winner 3 years running, early acceptance to MIT. But according to his classmates' testimonies, he'd become obsessed with time during his junior year. Talked constantly about how moments were dying every second, how everything beautiful was constantly being lost to the past. He wanted to preserve things. One student had told investigators. Said he was developing a way to trap time, to keep perfect moments from ever ending. We thought he meant photography or something. We had no idea he meant this. The fire had started at 2:30 on June 20th, 1994. Finals week. Dmitri had barricaded the doors to 3 classrooms in the East Wing, then set fires in the hallways to prevent escape. When firefighters finally got inside, they found 27 students dead from smoke inhalation, all still sitting at their desks like they'd been frozen mid-exam. Dmitri's body was found in what used to be the chemistry lab. He'd carved symbols into the floor with acid, arranged candles in specific patterns. The police report called it evidence of occult activity, but dismissed it as the ravings of a disturbed teenager. Marcus said I knew better. He completed the ritual, I said, staring at crime scene photos on Saturday afternoon. We were in his basement, papers spread across every surface. He trapped those 27 students in time, made them into anchors. But why would the building want to recreate it? Marcus asked. Why kill more students? That's when I saw it. A detail I'd missed before. In one of the photos, barely visible on the chemistry lab wall, was writing, burned into the paint like it had been scorched there. The ritual requires completion. 27 anchors. 27 echoes. Then time stops forever. Oh my God, I whispered. He only got halfway done. The fire killed him before he could finish. The building has 27 students from '94, but it needs 27 more from now to complete whatever Dmitri started. Marcus went pale. We're not trying to stop a prediction. We're trying to stop the second half of a ritual that's been waiting 32 years to finish. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, stop investigating. You're making it angry. Who sent this? I showed Marcus. Before he could answer, every light in his basement went out. In the darkness, I heard that sound again. The ticking, like a clock counting down. And whispers. Dozens of voices, all saying the same thing. June 20th. June 20th. June 20th. The lights came back on after exactly 27 seconds. Marcus and I sat in stunned silence, our breath visible in the suddenly freezing air. "It's warning us," I said. "We're counting down." Marcus checked his phone. "We have 7 months until June 20th. That's 213 days. I started to respond, but stopped. Something was wrong with Marcus's face. The left side was slack, drooping slightly. "Marcus, your face." He touched his cheek and winced. "I can't feel it. Like it numb." He pulled out his phone and checked the photo of his report card, zooming in on the grades. "Medical leave noted. Stroke symptoms. February 15th. That's in 3 weeks." "I know." His voice was shaking now. "It's accelerating. The building is making the report cards come true, one symptom at a time. First the bruise, then the marks on my neck, now this. By June, I'll be..." He couldn't finish the sentence. I grabbed his shoulders. "No, we're going to stop this. We're going to break the ritual before it can complete." "How?" "We don't even know how the ritual works. Then we find someone who does." I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Dmitry Volkov didn't come up with this on his own. He had to learn it somewhere. Someone taught him, or he read about it, or he had help. Marcus was looking at something on his phone, his good eye wide. "Elena, look at this." He showed me a photo from the newspaper archives. A group picture of the science club from 1993, 1 year before the fire. Dmitry stood in the back row, smiling. But next to him was someone I recognized. Mr. Klaus, our current vice principal. 32 years younger, but definitely the same person. He was there. I breathed. He was at Riverside Academy when it happened. He must have known Dmitry. More than that. Marcus zoomed in on the photo. "Look at what he's holding." In Klaus's hands was a book. The title was barely visible, but I could make it out: Temporal Mechanics and Ritual Preservation. We found our expert. And he'd been at the school this whole time, watching, waiting. Maybe even helping the building complete what Dmitry had started. Marcus and I looked at each other, the same realization dawning. "We need to talk to Klaus," I said. "On Monday. In his office. We confront him directly." But Monday never came. Not the way we expected. Because when I woke up Sunday morning at 8:30, there was a new report card slipped under my bedroom door. Same format, same date. But this one had different information. Elena Kovac, grade 11. Cause of death, confrontation with faculty member, Sunday, February 9th. Blunt force trauma to head. Time of death, 9:15 p.m. Today's date was February 9th. I had 12 and a half hours to live. I called Marcus immediately, my hand shaking so badly I could barely dial. He answered on the first ring. "Elena? What's wrong?" "I got another report card. It says I died tonight. At 9:15. Blunt force trauma." My voice cracked. "It says I'm killed by a faculty member." Silence. Then Klaus knows we figured it out. "He's coming after you." "What do I do?" "Don't go anywhere alone. Stay in public places." "I'm coming over." "No." I cut him off. "Your face, Marcus. You can barely move. If Klaus is dangerous, you can't." Then we go to the police. Right now. We show them everything. We met at the police station at 9:30 in the morning. Brought all our evidence, the photos, the newspaper articles, the report cards. The desk sergeant listened patiently for about 5 minutes before holding up a hand. "Kids, I understand you're scared. But what you're describing is impossible. Report cards from the future? A building that kills people. This sounds like a story for a guidance counselor, not the police. Just look at the evidence," I begged. He glanced at the photos on my phone, then shook his head. "These could be doctored. And breaking into school property, the East Wing, that's trespassing. I should be calling your parents, not investigating ghost stories." We left the station at 10:15, defeated. He didn't believe us, Marcus said, stating the obvious. No one will. I checked the time. 11 hours until 9:15. I need to stay away from Klaus. Stay away from school entirely. Where will you go? I don't know. Somewhere public. The mall, maybe. Somewhere with cameras and witnesses. I squeezed his hand. You should go home. Rest. Take care of your face. Elena, please. I can't watch you get worse while I'm trying to stay alive. He reluctantly agreed. I spent the day at the mall, moving from store to store, always staying where people could see me. I bought coffee I didn't drink, pretended to shop for clothes I didn't want. Anything to kill time. At 7 p.m., I was in the food court when I saw him. Mr. Klaus, sitting 3 tables away, watching me with cold eyes. I ran, pushed through the crowd, heading for the exit. But everywhere I turned, he was there. Not chasing, just appearing. Like the building had been, he was always one step ahead. By 8:30, I was back at school. I don't know how I got there. I remember running, remember getting in my car, remember driving. But the route I took should have led me home. Instead, I ended up in the school parking lot, my car facing the east wing. The gate to the fence was open. Inviting. I checked my phone. 8:45. 30 minutes until 9:15. And then I understood. The building hadn't just predicted my death. It had orchestrated it. Every choice I'd made today, every turn I'd taken had led me here, to this moment, to the east wing. I could run, try to leave, but I knew it wouldn't work. The building wanted me inside. It would find a way to get me there. So I made a different choice. I walked through the gate willingly, pulled out my phone, and called Marcus. I'm going to confront it, I said. The building, the ritual, all of it. If I'm going to die tonight anyway, I want to understand why first. Elena, don't record this call. Everything I say. If I don't make it out, at least there'll be proof. I walked into the east wing, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. And Marcus, thank you for believing me. I hung up before he could respond and descended the stairs to the basement. The students from 1994 were still there, still frozen at their desks. But now they were looking at me. 27 pairs of eyes, all focused on my face. And at the front of the room, standing behind a teacher's desk, was Dmitry Volkov, or something that used to be Dmitry Volkov. Hello, Elena, he said in a voice like grinding stone. We've been waiting for you. Dmitry looked exactly like his yearbook photo, except wrong. His skin had a gray tint, his movements were too fluid, and his eyes reflected light like an animal's. He wasn't alive, but he wasn't quite dead either. You're trapped, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Just like them. The ritual didn't work. The ritual worked perfectly. He gestured to the frozen students. I captured this moment. Preserved it. These 27 anchors exist outside of time now. They'll never age, never change, never die. They're eternal. They're prisoners. They're art. He moved around the desk, and I noticed his feet didn't quite touch the floor. But yes, incomplete. I died before I could finish. Before I could create the echo chamber. The 27 more students. The ones who die in June. Not die. Transform. Become echoes of these originals. Perfect mirrors across time. When both sets exist simultaneously in this space, the loop will close. Time will fold in on itself. And Riverside Academy will exist forever in this single perfect moment. June 20th, finals week, students at their desks, everything preserved. I backed toward the stairs. You're insane. I'm visionary. Time is a thief, Elena. It steals everything we love, every perfect moment, every beautiful thing. I found a way to stop the theft, to make something permanent. His smile was horrible. Your friend Marcus understands. His symptoms are preparing him. By June, he'll be ready to take his place as one of the 27 echoes. And me. My report card says I die tonight. A complication. You weren't supposed to investigate. Weren't supposed to understand. The building tried to warn you, tried to scare you away. But you kept digging. He tilted his head. So we adapted. Added you to the collection early. A bonus anchor, if you will. Behind me, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Mr. Klaus descended into the basement, carrying something heavy, a piece of metal pipe from the old chemistry lab. "I'm sorry, Elena," Klaus said, and he actually sounded sad. "I tried to warn you. Tried to make Marcus stop investigating. But you both saw too much." "You've helped him," I said. "You helped Dmitri with the ritual." I gave him the book. I didn't know what he was planning. Klaus's hand shook on the pipe. But after he died, after I saw what he created, I understood. He was right about time, about preservation. So I stayed, became vice principal, protected the East Wing, made sure no one interfered with the anchors. For 32 years. For 32 years. He raised the pipe, and I won't let you ruin it now. Not when we're so close to completion. I ran. Not up the stairs. Klaus blocked that exit. Instead, I ran deeper into the basement, past the frozen students, into corridors I didn't know existed. The building seemed to shift around me, hallways extending impossibly, doors appearing and disappearing. Behind me, Klaus's footsteps echoed, and Dimitri's voice called out, "You can't escape, Elena. You're already part of this." The moment you found your report card, you became anchored to June 20th. To this building. To us. I burst through a door and found myself in the old chemistry lab. The symbols Dimitri had carved were still there, glowing faintly in the darkness. Candles that shouldn't be burning flickered on every surface. And in the center of the room was a mirror. Full length, ornate, definitely not school property. But when I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw myself, but different. Older, wearing clothes I didn't own, standing in the same room. And behind that version of me were 26 other students, all frozen mid-movement. "That's you in June," Dimitri said from the doorway. Klaus stood beside him, pipe still raised. "That's what you'll become. One of the 27 echoes. Preserved forever in the moment of your death." I looked at my phone. 9:14. 1 minute left. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I picked up one of Dimitri's burning candles and threw it at the mirror. The glass shattered, and the building screamed. The sound that came from the walls wasn't human. It was the shriek of metal being torn, of glass breaking, of time itself being wounded. The floor buckled beneath my feet, and the candles all went out simultaneously, plunging the lab into darkness. "What have you done?" Dimitri's voice was anguished, furious. "I broke your echo," I gasped. "Destroyed my future reflection. If I'm not in the mirror, I can't become an anchor." Klaus lunged at me in the darkness, but I dodged, feeling the pipe whistle past my head. I ran blindly, hands outstretched, until I hit a wall. Found a door handle. Pull. The door opened into impossible space. Not the basement anymore. Not any part of Riverside Academy I'd ever seen. I was in a hallway that stretched infinitely in both directions, lined with mirrors on both sides. And in each mirror was a different version of the school. Different years, different students, different moments, all captured and preserved. "You're in the space between," Dimitri said. He and Klaus stood at the threshold, unable or unwilling to enter. The gap between moments. This is where the building stores everything it captures. Every preserved instant, every frozen second. I walked down the hallway, looking into the mirrors. Saw the fire from 1994 playing on loop. Saw students from decades earlier, from years that hadn't happened yet. Saw Marcus in one mirror, his face fully paralyzed, sitting at a desk with 26 others. June 20th, 2026. Just like the report card predicted. "You can't stay there forever," Klaus called. "Eventually, you'll have to come back. And when you do, we'll complete what should have happened tonight." He was right. I could already feel the space pulling at me, trying to eject me back into normal time. But then I saw something that gave me an idea. One of the mirrors showed the chemistry lab. Not from tonight, but from 1994. Dimitri was there, alive, carving his symbols into the floor. And I could see what he was doing wrong. See where the ritual had failed. He'd created the anchors, yes. Captured 27 students in time. But he'd forgotten to anchor himself properly. When he died, he became trapped between states. Not quite preserved, not quite gone. A ghost in his own machine, unable to complete the ritual, but unable to let it go. The building doesn't want to kill students, I realized aloud. You do. You're the one driving it, forcing it to recreate June 20th. Because you need the echoes to finish what you started. But the building itself, it's just trapped. It's been trying to break free for 32 years. Nonsense, Dmitri snarled. But I saw the mirrors ripple, like the building was responding. Agreeing. You're not preserving anything beautiful, I continued. You're just holding grudges. Refusing to let go. The building wants to move forward, to exist in normal time, but you won't let it. Stop talking. What if I could free it? I looked directly at Dimitri's ghostly form. What if I could break your hold on the building? Would you fade? Would the anchors be released? You can. But what if I could? I smiled grimly. There's got to be a center to your ritual. An anchor point. Something that keeps you tied here. And I bet I know what it is. I ran back toward the chemistry lab, still in that impossible space between moments. Klaus tried to grab me as I crossed the threshold, but I was moving too fast. I burst into the lab, found what I was looking for, and before anyone could stop me, I destroyed it. Dimitri's original book, the one Klaus had given him. It was sitting on the teacher's desk, perfectly preserved, glowing with the same light as the symbols on the floor. I tore out every page and set them on fire with the remaining candles. Dimitri's scream shook the building to its foundation. The book burned fast, pages curling and blackening. As it did, Dimitri's form began to flicker like a bad signal. Klaus stumbled backward, his eyes wide with horror. No, you don't understand. Without the book, without the ritual. The building groaned. Not the scream from before, but something deeper. A sound of relief, almost. Like a person taking their first breath after being held underwater. Then everything started to fall apart. The symbols on the floor cracked, light pouring from the fissures. The basement walls became transparent, showing the impossible hallway of mirrors behind them. And through those mirrors, I could see the 27 students from 1994 starting to move. Slowly, stiffly, like people waking from a very long sleep. You've killed them, Dmitri gasped, his voice fading. Without the preservation ritual, they'll experience all 32 years at once. Their bodies will age, decay, or they'll just wake up, I said, free. In their own time. One of the mirrors shattered. Then another. The students from 94 were breaking through, stepping out of their frozen moment into somewhere else. Not the present. Not quite the past. Maybe their own timeline, one where the fire never finished what it started. Dmitri reached for them, but his hands passed through. He was fading faster now, the book's destruction breaking his connection to this world. 32 years, he whispered. 32 years of work. 32 years of prison, I corrected. For them and for you. He looked at me with something that might have been understanding, might have been hatred. Then he was gone, dissipating like smoke. Klaus collapsed against the wall, suddenly looking much older than he had moments before. What have I done? He murmured. What have I been doing? I checked my phone. 9:16. I'd survived past my predicted death time by 1 minute. The building shuddered again, and I felt it, felt the moment of my death unwriting itself. The report card's prediction dissolving, the timeline shifting. I was free. But Marcus wasn't. His report card was still out there, still pulling him toward June 20th. Where are the other report cards? I demanded, grabbing Klaus's shoulders. The ones for this year. Where are they kept? He looked at me blankly, then seemed to focus. The main office. In the East Wing. They manifest there because that's where Dmitri planned to collect the echoes. But if the ritual is broken, they might disappear. Or they might still exist as predictions. I pulled him to his feet. Show me. Now. We ran through the basement, which was looking more and more like a normal school basement with every passing second. The impossible hallway of mirrors was closing, the frozen students vanishing to wherever freed temporal anchors go. Up the stairs, through corridors that now stayed in one place instead of shifting. The main office of the East Wing was exactly as I'd left it days ago. Report cards scattered everywhere, hundreds of them. But they were changing. I watched as the red death notes began to fade on some, as dates shifted, as names disappeared entirely. The building was releasing its hold on the future, letting it become uncertain again. I found Marcus's report card and watched as the words student deceased flickered, faded, and finally vanished. The date remained June 20th, 2026, but now it just showed normal grades. No medical leave. No death. Is it over? I asked the empty room. The building didn't answer. But the oppressive weight I'd felt since first entering the East Wing was gone. The air smelled like mold and dust, not burning plastic and despair. It was over. The police came at 9:45. Marcus had called them after I stopped answering his calls, convinced something terrible had happened. They found me in the East Wing main office, surrounded by report cards that now looked like nothing more than elaborate forgeries, with Klaus sitting against the wall in a state of shock. I told them we'd broken in to investigate the old fire. Klaus, in his confused state, corroborated the story, adding details about how he tried to stop me, how I'd accidentally knocked over some old chemistry equipment, how there'd been a small fire that we put out. The officer taking my statement looked skeptical, but couldn't prove anything else. You're lucky you didn't get hurt. This wing is structurally unsound. That's why it's been closed for 30 years. Not because of temporal rituals or captured moments. Just normal building decay. I almost laughed. They let me go with a warning and a promise to call my parents. Klaus was taken in for questioning. Allowing a student into a restricted area was serious, even if his story was confused and contradictory. Marcus was waiting outside the school when they released me at 11:30. The paralysis in his face was already fading, color returning to his skin. The bruise on his arm had lightened to a pale yellow. "It's over," he asked. "It's over." We sat on the hood of his car in the parking lot, neither of us ready to go home yet. What happened to the students from 94? I don't know. They broke free of the preservation. Maybe they're alive somewhere, somehow. Maybe they just moved on. I showed him his report card, now free of death predictions. But we're not going to die in June. And Dmitri, gone. The ritual is broken. The building is just a building again. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you think Klaus knew? Really knew what he was doing all these years? I thought about Klaus's face when Dmitri had faded. The horror and confusion, like he was waking from a long dream. I think the ritual had him too. Not like the students, but influenced. Convinced. He gave Dmitri that book when they were both teenagers, and it haunted him ever since. Will you tell anyone? The real story? Who would believe it? I pulled out my phone and deleted the photos of the report cards. Better to let it be forgotten. Let the building just be a closed wing again. But I was wrong about that last part. School reopened Monday morning, and the rumors spread fast. Someone had broken into the East Wing. There'd been some kind of incident. Mr. Klaus had been suspended pending investigation. The school board was talking about finally demolishing the whole section rather than just keeping it closed. I kept my head down, went to classes, pretended everything was normal. But I noticed things. Small things. The hallway near the East Wing entrance felt lighter. Students who used to avoid that corridor now walked through it without that instinctive shudder. The building itself seemed to breathe easier, like a weight had been lifted. Marcus and I met in the library after school, our new regular spot. His face was completely back to normal, the bruise gone, the paralysis vanished like it had never existed. "I got my actual report card today," he said. "From Mr. Patterson, my guidance counselor. Want to know what it said? Please tell me it didn't predict your death." He laughed. "No deaths. Just normal grades." Although he did note that I've seemed distracted and anxious lately. Recommended I consider therapy. "Maybe not the worst idea," I said. "After what we went through." "Yeah." He pulled out the guidance counselor's card. "But who would we even tell? What would we say? We broke a time-preserving ritual and freed 27 students from temporal prison." A voice behind us said, "You could start by telling me." We both jumped. Standing, there was a girl I didn't recognize, maybe a year older than us, with dark hair and intense eyes. She was holding a folder. "Who are you?" I asked. "Sophia Volkov, Dmitri's younger sister." She sat down at our table uninvited. Well, technically, his great-niece. He never had kids. Never got the chance. But I've been researching his story for years, trying to understand what happened to him. And then last week, the East Wing incident happens, Klaus gets suspended, and all the old case files about the fire mysteriously go missing from the school archives. She opened her folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, photographs, and report cards, I breathed. From 94. I found them in Klaus's office before they cleared it out. Took them because I thought they might be evidence of what really happened. She looked between Marcus and me. But these aren't from 94. They're dated next June. And they all say deceased. Until 3 days ago when the death notes just vanished. Like someone changed the future. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Why are you telling us this? Because I think you're the ones who changed it. Who broke whatever Dimitri created. Sophia's expression was fierce. And I need to know how you did it. Because he wasn't the only one. My research has found 6 other cases across the country. Different schools, different years, but the same pattern. Fires or accidents that kill multiple students. Closed wings that nobody talks about. Rumors of students seeing their own deaths predicted. My blood went cold. You think there are more of these rituals? I think Dimitri found something he shouldn't have. Something old. And I think other people have found it too. She pulled out a map marked with red dots scattered across several states. These are the sites I've identified. Schools with closed wings, preserved moments, trapped students. I need to stop them. Free them like you freed the ones here. But I don't know how. We destroyed the source, I said quietly. The book that taught him the ritual. We burned it, but that was just one copy. The knowledge came from somewhere. There has to be an original source, a master text. Sophia's hands were shaking slightly. I've dedicated the last 3 years to this. To understanding what Dimitri became, what drove him to trap those students. And now finally I meet someone who actually broke one of these rituals. Please, tell me how you did it. Marcus looked at me. I saw the question in his eyes. Did we really want to get involved in this? We barely survived our own experience. The idea of hunting down more temporal prisons, more preserved moments, more students trapped between life and death. But then I thought about the 27 students from 94. How they've been frozen for 32 years. How many more were out there, waiting for someone to free them? Okay, I said. We'll help you. But we do this smart. Research first. Planning. No rushing in. Sophia smiled with relief. Thank you. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for someone who understood. Just one question, Marcus said. How did you know it was us? That we were involved. Sophia pulled out one more item from her folder. A photograph of the East Wing office, taken the night of the incident. In it, barely visible, was me standing among the scattered report cards, holding Dimitri's burning book. I have friends in the fire department, she said. They showed me this before the investigation was closed. The official report says it was just some old chemistry equipment that caught fire. But I know what that book looked like. I've seen it in Dimitri's old photos. And I know what it means that you destroyed it. She put the photo away. So, are you ready to help me find the others? To free more trapped students? I looked at Marcus. He shrugged. We just saved our entire junior class. Might as well save some more. And that's how we became hunters of temporal prisons. How 3 teenagers started traveling to schools across the country, finding closed wings and forgotten fires, breaking rituals that had been running for decades. But that's a different story. One that's still being written. We started with Sophia's research, spending weeks going through her files, learning about each site. The oldest one she'd found was from 1968, a school in Oregon with a boiler room explosion that killed 15 students. The room had been sealed off, and according to local rumors, maintenance workers still heard voices coming from behind the walls. The most recent was from 2015, a chemistry lab fire in Texas. 8 students. The school had renovated the wing, but people complained about feeling watched, about time seeming to skip in that hallway. The ritual is always the same, Sophia explained during one of our planning sessions. A traumatic event, fire, explosion, collapse, that kills multiple students. Someone who understands the preservation technique uses the moment of death to create anchors. The building becomes stuck, trying to recreate that moment over and over. But why? I asked. What's the point of trapping people like that? Dimitri believed it was about preserving beauty, keeping perfect moments from being lost to time. Sophia's voice was bitter. But I think it's simpler than that. I think the people who do this are just afraid. Afraid of change, afraid of loss, afraid of time passing. So they break time to stop it. We decided to start with the Oregon school, Valley View High. It was summer break, the building mostly empty. Easier to investigate without drawing attention. The three of us drove there in Marcus's car, 14 hours straight, sharing driving shifts and going over the plan. We'd learned from the Riverside Academy incident. This time, we'd be prepared. We arrived at Valley View at 8:30 on a Tuesday evening. The school looked normal enough from the outside, typical 70s architecture, brick and concrete. But when we walked around to the old boiler room entrance, I felt it. That same oppressive weight I'd felt at Riverside. "It's here," I whispered. The preservation is still active. Sophia had brought tools, bolt cutters for the chains, flashlights, and something new. A small mirror about the size of a textbook. "What's that for?" Marcus asked. "If the ritual creates echo chambers between past and future, a mirror might show us both. Help us find the source faster." She hefted the bolt cutters. "Ready." We cut through the chains and entered the boiler room at 9 p.m. exactly. The space was larger than I'd expected, full of old pipes and machinery covered in decades of dust. But in the corner, barely visible, was a door that definitely hadn't been part of the original building plans. It looked new or out of place. We approached it carefully. Sophia held up her mirror, angling it to catch our flashlight beams. In the reflection, the door was open. And through it, I could see students. 15 of them, sitting in a room that shouldn't exist, frozen mid-motion. Found them, Sophia breathed. The actual door was locked, but Marcus had brought his own tools. He worked on the lock while Sophia and I kept watch, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were being observed. "Someone's here," I whispered. Another caretaker like Klaus was. Probably. Sophia didn't sound surprised. Every preserved site needs someone to maintain it. Protect it from discovery. Then where are they? As if in answer, lights blazed on throughout the boiler room. A voice echoed from speakers I hadn't noticed. "Leave now. You don't understand what you're interfering with." Marcus got the lock open. Too late for warnings. "We're ending this." We pushed through the door into impossible space. Just like at Riverside, we found ourselves in a room that existed between moments. The 15 students sat at desks, papers in front of them, pencils frozen mid-word. They'd been taking a test when the boiler exploded. And standing at the front of the classroom was a woman, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. "Please don't," she said simply. "They're my students. I've kept them safe for 54 years. If you break the preservation, they'll die. They'll experience the explosion all at once. Or they'll be free," I said. "Like the ones at Riverside. You don't know that. You don't know where they went." Her voice cracked. "I was their teacher. I survived the explosion. I've dedicated my entire life to keeping this moment preserved so they wouldn't have to die. You can't take that away." Sophia stepped forward. "What's your name?" "Mrs. Chin." "Ingrid Chin." "Mrs. Chin, I'm Sophia Volkov, Dmitry Volkov's great-niece." She pulled out Dmitry's photograph. "Do you recognize him?" The teacher's face went pale. "He's the one who showed me. Who gave me the book. I was so angry, so desperate to save my students. He said there was a way. I didn't understand the cost. The cost is their freedom," Marcus said gently. "They're not safe. They're trapped. They've been trapped for 5 decades. Don't you think they deserve to rest?" Mrs. Chun looked at her frozen students, tears streaming down her face. "I can't let them go. I can't." "Yes, you can," Sophia said. "We just need to find the anchor." "I'm the anchor." Mrs. Chen pulled up her sleeve, showing symbols carved into her skin. "I tie myself to the ritual. As long as I live, the preservation continues. If you want to break it, you'll have to kill me." We stood in stunned silence. The other rituals had used books or objects as anchors, but Mrs. Chen had made herself the anchor point. She'd literally become part of the preservation. "We're not killing you," I said firmly. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. I made sure of that." She smiled sadly. "I know you think I'm wrong. Maybe I am. But I couldn't save them 54 years ago. This is all I can do now." We left Valley View that night without breaking the ritual. Drove back in silence, each of us wrestling with the same question. What do you do when the person maintaining the prison genuinely believes they're protecting people? "We'll figure it out," Sophia said as we dropped her off. "We have to. Those students deserve freedom, even if Mrs. Chin doesn't understand that. But I wasn't sure anymore. Wasn't sure we had the right to make that choice for her, or for the students she'd been protecting for 5 decades. The preservation rituals were more complicated than we'd thought, and stopping them was going to cost more than we'd imagined. We never did break the Valley View preservation. Mrs. Chin died of natural causes 2 years later, and the ritual dissolved with her. The boiler room was demolished the following summer. I like to think the 15 students finally found peace, but I'll never know for sure. Sophia, Marcus, and I stopped hunting preserved moments after that. We realized we didn't have the right to decide who should be freed and who should stay trapped. Not when the people maintaining the rituals genuinely believed they were doing good, even if we thought they were wrong. But we did start something else. A support group for people who'd survived temporal encounters. Students who'd found their own death predictions, teachers who discovered impossible rooms, maintenance workers who'd seen things that shouldn't exist. We meet once a month in the back room of a coffee shop in Portland. Sometimes 5 people show up, sometimes 20. We share stories, compare experiences, try to understand what we've been through. Marcus graduated with honors, went to college for physics, now studies temporal mechanics academically. He's trying to understand scientifically what we encountered emotionally. Sometimes he succeeds. Mostly he just creates more questions. Sophia became an investigative journalist, still tracking down preserved moments, but no longer trying to break them. She documents them, warns people, helps survivors find support. Her articles circulate in academic circles, dismissed as urban legends by most, taken seriously by those who know better. And me? I stayed in Riverside, finished high school, went to community college, became a guidance counselor at Riverside Academy. When students come to me scared, confused, seeing things they shouldn't see, I believe them. The East Wing was demolished 3 years ago. They built a new library where it used to stand, bright and modern and forward-looking. Students study there without any idea of what happened in that space. I prefer it that way. But sometimes, late at night when I'm the last one in the building, I still feel it. A slight pressure in the air, a sense of being watched. The preservation ritual is broken. The anchors are freed, but memory lingers. The building remembers. And so do I. I keep my old report card in my desk drawer. The one dated June 20th, 2026, that once predicted my death. Now it just shows normal grades, A in English, B+ in history, C in mathematics. The red ink note is gone, but I can still see where it used to be, a ghost of text that was erased when we changed the future. Sometimes students ask me if I believe in fate, if I think our paths are predetermined. And I tell them the truth. I think the future is always being written, always changing, always responding to our choices. Nothing is said until it happens. And even then, sometimes if you're brave enough or desperate enough or lucky enough, you can change what seemed inevitable. I survived what should have killed me. Broke a ritual that had been running for 32 years. Freed 27 students from temporal prison. But the thing that haunts me most isn't the horror of what happened. It's the responsibility of what I know now. That time can be broken. That moments can be trapped. That somewhere right now, students are sitting in impossible rooms, frozen in the seconds before their deaths, waiting for someone to either free them or keep them preserved forever. And I can't save them all. None of us can. So I do what I can. I help the survivors. I document the sites. I believe the stories nobody else will believe. And I remember that report card with my name on it. Remember the basement full of frozen students. Remember Dimitri's voice promising eternal preservation. Remember Mrs. Chen choosing to trap herself to protect her class. I remember, so maybe others won't have to go through it alone. Marcus texted me this morning. New preservation site identified. Minnesota. High School Theater Department. 1987. Interested. I haven't answered yet. Part of me wants to help, wants to investigate, wants to try to free whoever might be trapped there. But another part remembers Valley View. Remembers that sometimes the people we're trying to save don't want to be saved. Maybe that's the real horror. Not the temporal rituals or the preserved moments or the death predictions. But the choice. The impossible choice between freedom and safety, between change and permanence, between time that wounds and time that heals. I'll probably text Marcus back tomorrow. Tell him I'm in. Because despite everything, despite knowing the cost and the complications and the moral ambiguity, I can't ignore people who need help. And somewhere in a Minnesota high school, trapped in 1987, frozen students are waiting. Time doesn't wait. But for them, it stopped 35 years ago. Maybe it's time to start it moving again. Or maybe it's time to learn when to let things stay preserved. I still don't know which is right. I'm still learning. We all are.